Howdy modelers, this is Brian here with another exciting episode of Boss Builds. If you've been following along, this is about, what, episode 9 I think? Yeah, episode 9, and we've been building the 1/72nd scale Fujimi Type 10 main battle tank as used, or as is going to be used by the Japan Self-Defense Forces. Now if you've been watching along, you saw in the last episode I put the decals on, and I talked about what I was going to do as far as weathering goes. Well, guess what, folks? I wasn't able to do anything as far as that's concerned. So as far as the model goes, nothing has changed, but today we're going to talk about cases. As you can see here, I've got a lovely case that I've got the Type 10 main battle tank in here. I just happened to be at a 100 yen shop yesterday looking around shopping with my wife, and they had a little section of cases for figures, for car models and whatnot, and I thought this one would be the perfect size for the tank. As you've seen in previous episodes, I've had it mounted on this 1/43rd scale Cadillac Converge base that I was using essentially just as something to mount it on, so I didn't have to handle the tank too much. Although I was considering using this base permanently. It didn't have a tall enough clear section to cover the antennas, so when I saw this base, it's got a very high clear plastic case on it, and it clears the antennas here very well. As you can see, it's slightly larger than the other base, so I've got enough room in the front for the long barrel, and in the back for the antennas because they go back a bit too. And it all worked out pretty good. And again, this was a very inexpensive one, a 100 yen, which these days, what's the exchange rate for you in the US? It's like 77 yen to $1 now, so it's a little more than $1. I don't know if they have these in dollar stores or euro stores around the world. Cases like this, but if you can find them, they're very good. And again, it was only 100 yen, so it's not the most, what's the best way to put this, high quality base that you can get out there. As you can see here, it's just a simple plastic base. One of the only defects I can really see on here is there are some sink marks around the edges. Now, this is a good time to talk about sink marks because you can also see sink marks in some plastic model kits. Sink mark occurs when there's a flat section of plastic and then suddenly on the back you can see here there's these sections of thicker plastic. These are little structural strengthening things in there that make the whole thing stronger. But what happens there, particularly here and on some plastic model kits, is on the other side of that where you have thicker portions of plastic. And during the injection process, when it hardens, dries, becomes hard, on one side of it, it can sink in a little bit, and that's why they call them sink marks. You can see this on aircraft model fuselages where you have the pins, the locator pins on the other side of that. You can see that, or wherever there's a flat surface, and behind that you can see there might be detail molded on there. You can sometimes see sink marks. So yeah, a quick discussion about sink marks, and that's really the only problem you see here. It also has some Mars on it. Obviously these are quickly produced, so to make this nicer I would probably sand off some of these little burrs on here, maybe even put some sort of a surface on here like a little roadway, or if I wanted to get elaborate, use some putty or something, make a sort of a terrain surface, sprinkle some fine sand on there, make a nice little display. But anyway, and as you can see, it's just screwed on there. I've got a black screw here. So if you see it directly from the front or the back, you can of course see the screw in there. But keeping it black really makes it not really that obtrusive. And for the last couple of years, I've always put all my tanks and models on bases because I don't really want to handle them too much. The more you handle the model, the more chances that something can break off, and of course you can leave fingerprints on it, things like that. Now the cool part about the clear case, of course, which in this particular case, it just sits on there. It's got like a lip around there, so it's not going to fall off, but it's not positively snapped on there. I've got some other cases here I'll show you later that do positively snap on, and makes a nice little box. Talking more about the quality of this, again, it's 100 yen, so you've got a big pour mark here, and there's some little inconsistencies there, but my gosh, it's only 100 yen, so it makes a nice little display case. And also, cases like this are good for traveling. I've got some cases, cheap cases like this, that I've used simply to transport models to shows or things like that. Because you see, once it's in here, now in this case I would probably tape it up, but you can turn it upside down, shake it, nothing's gonna happen to it because it's literally bolted down to the base there. So it makes traveling with your models really easy. You could probably even pack this in a suitcase and throw it on an airplane. It'll probably be okay, as long as you don't get any super hard jolts that might knock something off. But this little guy, he's pretty sturdy. He's not going anywhere. So yeah, picked this up yesterday, and that gave me the brainstorm to talk about cases today, since I didn't have actually any work done on the model. Sorry about that. So yeah, the guy in the case graduated from the Cadillac Converge. I'll probably be throwing this away. Probably won't be throwing it away, actually, because I'll probably use this for a next project or something like that. Now over here, I'll show you a selection of some of the cases that we actually have in the catalog here at HLJ. Wave makes the T-Case series. These are a very good series of cases in different sizes. You see here, they're made for cars. Some made for ships. You get the little ship here. I should have shown it this way. So they come in different proportions, long and thin, not too tall for ships like that. A little different dimensions for cars, which are generally flat. This is a smaller one. Here's a square one, which is good for aircraft. This is a larger one for like 1/18 scale cars. We have much larger ones also by Tamiya. They make for some of their larger ship kits. We even have a huge one, which I don't have here because it's too big, for the 1/72nd scale. It was made specially for the 1/72nd scale Fine Molds Millennium Falcon, and it's got a nice, beautiful, well done wooden base and a beautifully clear, crystal clear acrylic case to go on top of that. And these aren't, of course, not as cheap as the 100 yen case that I just showed you, but I think the selection here is from, this little guy here is about 680 yen up to, I think the big guy here is 5,000 yen or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but we'll have links to all the cases that are available, and you can check through there later. So for displaying models, I really recommend having a case. Didn't really talk about it up to now, but yeah, keeps fingerprints off of it when you're handling, and also just when it's on display in your room or wherever you have it on display, it keeps dust off it. Dust is one of the bugaboos of displaying your models without cases, and you have to get in there and try to clean them off with brushes or spray air or whatever. But with a case like this, you never have to worry about that, because it will remain dust and fingerprint free for as long as you keep it in the case. So the Type 10 main battle tank, hopefully I'll have something done on that next time we see you. Selection of cases, the retired 1/43rd scale Cadillac Converge thing. So the next thing we'll talk about here is I'll answer some questions. There were a couple of questions I received from the last video, and I'll answer two of those questions right now. I already answered them actually in the YouTube videos, but we'll talk about it here because not everyone goes to see the YouTube ones. So question one was about, I was talking about silvering and water slide decals last time, and a modeler wrote in and said, well, what about dry transfers? Because I was talking about how great dry transfers are. Do you ever have silvering with a dry transfer decal? And my answer was, in my experience, no. I've never had any silvering, because what you need to have in order for silvering to even occur is a clear portion of the marking or the decal or the transfer, whatever it is. And with water slide decals, obviously the whole marking is printed on clear film, so you always have a bit of clear film around the edges, in the centers of numbers and things like that. There's going to be clear film, and that is primarily what causes the silvering in water slide decals. You get the air, some slight air under there, and you get the refraction or whatever scientific stuff that makes it look silvery. And again, with dry transfers, in my experience, I've never seen a dry transfer that has clear film as part of the image or marking on there. I'm not saying that there aren't any, there might be, but I haven't seen any, and I certainly haven't used any. So again, with a dry transfer, it's essentially like you're putting paint directly onto the model as a marking as you burnish it on there. So that's for me, that's one of the great benefits of a dry transfer, is there's absolutely no concern about silvering because there's no clear film involved. Now the next question that I got wasn't really a question, it was more like a comment, and this is about tanks and armored vehicles in general. Going back to this, modeler wrote in and said he loves seeing this whenever we were showing this on camera, and he said he always had fun imagining what a Cadillac tank would look like. And as luck has it, Cadillac actually did make tanks. I suggested to the modeler to Google Cadillac Gauge. It's Cadillac, and Gauge is G-A-G-E, Stingray. Cadillac Gauge was a company, and they made a prototype light tank called the Stingray, which was a pretty cool looking tank. It was much smaller than this, obviously, and much faster. I can't remember when it was actually developed. Maybe the 80s, 90s, I'm not sure. Anyway, Google it for all the answers to anything in the world. Google Cadillac gauge Stingray. I believe it had a 105mm gun. It was very speedy, kind of like an M551 Sheridan-based chassis. But yeah, if you want to know what a Cadillac-made tank would look like, Google Stingray. And if you want to know what a Cadillac-made armored car looks like, Google Cadillac gauge Commando. And you'll see what Cadillac can do in armored vehicles. So that's really all I have to talk about today. Cases. I recommend investing in a case. Head on down to the dollar shop, the euro shop, the pound shop, whatever kind of shop that you can find things like that there, and check through their stock and see if they've got any cases. Highly recommend cases. A couple questions answered. And hopefully next time you see me, I will actually have something done on the tank here. I'm still thinking about which way I want to go as far as glossing it and washing it and dry brushing and all that stuff. But hopefully by the next time you see me, I'll have a decision made and I'll have something to show you. So that's it for me for this time for Boss Builds, and I'll see you next time.